Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for another very special edition of WOWSA Live with our host, Ned Denison.
Hello, everyone. I'm the chairperson of the International Marathon Swimming Hall of Fame. The next guest, I'm going to read a bit of his biography because he's kind of the quiet man. Pilot Dave Whyte, he took the first six-way English Channel relay, took 61 hours and 27 minutes. He was piloting for 25 years and unfortunately retired in 2008. We still miss you, Dave. He piloted 305 channel swimmers. That's 83 solo crossings from 32 different countries. A breaststroke solo in 23 hours and 50 minutes. Got a fascinating story about taking a group of disabled swimmers on a relay, and then a number of them came back to do solos. He piloted Eric Johnson, who set a France to England record. And he uniquely piloted honoree Kevin Murphy on his last few channel swims, including number 34, which set the male record. And he also piloted King of the Channel, Michael Reed, on his 32nd channel crossing. Michael continued to do one more for 33. Dave, I guess where I want to start with you is how did this all happen with you? How did you get into channel piloting?
By fluke, really. I'd just started a sailing school in Dover, and there was some channel swimmers who wanted to go, and I forget her name now, but she was an American, Laura somebody or other, and I said I'd take her if I could, and I contacted the CSA. And they okayed it, and that's how it started.
And did you eventually get some help or advice from other famous pilots, or were you kind of left to figure it out yourself?
No, I didn't have any advice at all. I didn't have any advice, really. Mike Oram was doing it at the same time, and he was about the only one that I ever spoke to about it. Because at that time, on the boats, we had very little electronics. I didn't even have a radar or a navigator or anything like that. It was all just VHF and compasses. And Mike had a radar at the time, so I'd call him up and he'd tell me if I had needed advice on anything coming up. I'd call him and he'd find out how it was going. So
contrast that first swim. Contrast different. Your first swim with a compass and a sextant with your last swim.
Say that again.
Contrast your very first swim with the sextant and the compass with your last swim with all the technology gear. Just give us a comparison of those.
No comparison because we had to sort of know where we were by sort of traditional means, whereas now you just read it off and plot it down. Or just with the plotters now you can see where you are all the time without actually having to do anything. And with AIS and everything, you know exactly who's coming down on you and who's going to miss you and who's likely to come in contact with, so you can warn them off in good time.
So the old-time English Channel swimmers are always telling me that the water was 5 degrees Celsius. They were icebergs in the channel, and it was so much more difficult. Can you give us some idea, without that technology, how much tougher it was for you to get swimmers across? Was that kind of 10, 20, 25% tougher?
Because if quite often you can't see the other side or see anything, so you can't do any fixes from the old way. So you just carried on as you were on the course you set until you came to where you could see the other side, and then find out where you were. But so it wasn't all that difficult. You're always going to come to the coast and get a fix.
You famously piloted honoree Kevin Murphy for, I think, his last 12 swims, including this number 34, the most by any male. I always heard rumors that Kevin had the slowest speeds of any swimmer.
Yeah.
Is that something you remember fondly?
Yeah, he probably did. I don't know about all swimmers, but he must have been about the slowest. Because when he came for a feed, he didn't really come to be fed. He wanted a detailed account of how he was doing and how long it was going to go and everything else you could imagine. And in the end, we used to just stop talking to him and just put the throttle down and leave him till he'd start following us again. Otherwise, you stand there, you're sitting there talking all day.
Was there anything else unusual about his swims that sticks out in your mind?
No, really. Kevin would never ever stop unless he really had to. And sometimes he was really, really suffering from seasickness. But eventually he'd get over it and then he'd be all right. But apart from that, it was Kevin. He'd just keep going.
So besides putting the throttle down on him, did you ever actually yell at the man?
Oh, yeah, quite often.
So we had no problem believing that occasionally Mike Oram would yell at a swimmer. He'd freely admit that. But you're kind of the quiet gentleman, Dave.
Well, there's a limit to everybody's patience, and Kevin could push it.
I was lucky enough to have you pilot me in September 2005, and you did a kind of a trick on me. You met me beforehand. It was very nice, and you kind of very quietly said, oh, by the way, Ned, you're my last swimmer of the year. I've got 100% record now with the soloers, and we pilots, that's kind of bragging rights. It put that little bit of extra pressure on me. Did you have other 100% piloting years?
I don't think so, no. I don't think so.
So I have to ask, was mine 100% or were you just giving me a story?
Well, off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you whether I had 100% that year or not, because I just don't know.
We heard from Michael.
What date did you go?
September 2005.
Yeah, what time of the year?
The 11th. Easy to remember.
Yeah, what month?
September.
Oh, it would be towards the end then, yeah. So I can't confirm that, yes or no.
All right, I'm locking away in my brain that you might have been using a little psychology on me.
I
We'll come back to that over a pint and over someday.
There's a possibility there.
and I thought you were the nicest, most truthful gentleman out there. Okay, I'm parking that.
I might be right.
Mike Oram told us this. Yeah, you're charged. You haven't been exonerated yet. We heard a great story from Mike Oram about Petr Stoichev's record swim, and you were right behind him piloting Yuri Kudinov. Can you give us your memories of that day?
Yeah, I'll remember it, most of it. We set off after he did. We didn't know he was going, so we had no contact with each other. And when we set off, we saw this boat ahead, quite some way ahead, but the visibility was quite good. And we set off, and then we found out who it was.
Hello?
Hello? I think he dropped off. Let's see.
Okay. Can you pause and restart this thing?
Yeah.
So, Dave, you were telling us you could see Mike Orum's boat up in front of you. Take the story on from there, if you would, please.
Yeah, and we, for the first half of the swim, we were sort of keeping pace with him. But on the second half, we knew that he was slipping back, or we were slipping back very slightly. And our swimmers were being fed every 10 to 12 minutes. And I spoke to the coach and asked him to feed, increase the period, but he wouldn't. And I think if he had, we may well have just made up a few minutes, and there was only minutes in it at the end. But the result was what the result was. They just carried on.
And were these feeds, Dave, where the swimmer comes up to the boat, grabs a cup with his right hand, turns on his back, downs it, and keeps going?
Very quick feeds, but he's there to come up and break his rhythm and swim on again. So I thought they were far too frequent.
And were you getting excited out there in this competition?
No, not really, because I could see what the outcome was going to be. I mean, it wasn't on the case that we were catching him up. We weren't catching him up. And so there wasn't any real excitement.
Okay. And tell us about your famous disabled swimmer relay, and how it all came about, and what kind of adjustments, if any, you had to make during the piloting.
Yeah, we had them on board. I met them at a tea party at the Scots. We were running the Channel Swimming Association at that time. I met with the Egyptian organisers and booked a swim, and he turned up with 6 disabled swimmers and a couple of reserves, and they were all double amputees or double paraplegics. And there's not one with a sort of one leg missing, or most of them had 2 legs missing or 2 paralysed legs. The one guy who stood out had 1 arm and 1 leg, and I think he was the hero of the team. And anyway, they made it. I don't remember the off time they did it. I think 10 hours.
Were there special?
There's no special treatment at all. The guy who came with them, he was an Egyptian Navy captain, Nabil El Shazli, who I think is an honorary now. Is he?
Yes, he is.
He was a nominee last time I heard. Yeah, he came and he treated them probably with less respect than a normal swimmer. In other words, he made them he wouldn't let me help them in and out of the boat, for instance. They had to get in and get out by themselves, which I thought was a bit hard at the time, and I did have a word with him. And he said, yeah, you're right, he said, but at the end of the day, when they've done it, they'll have far more satisfaction than if people had been helping them, which was another way of looking at it. And as a result of it, he turned up the following year with 3 of that team to swim solos, and 2 of them, one with two legs missing, he made it, and another guy who was 2 parallel legs, he made it. And the third one was a young fellow with 1 arm and 1 leg who wasn't expected to make it, but he had a go. And we got halfway, and Nabil says, well, that's more than what we expected from him. We was quite happy now, And he carried on. And eventually he made it. And now this guy, with only one arm and one leg, I know the time isn't fantastic, but when you think about it, not many people do under 13 hours, and he did 12 hours and 59 minutes, and with one arm and one leg. And I think that's probably, of all the swims I've had, that was probably the most meritorious one, to me anyway, that I've done.
Bill is an honoree in the class of 2020. He's following his son Nasser, who was an honoree many years ago, was a famous marathon swimmer. And interestingly, Paul Asmuth talks about meeting Nabil in Dover and going for a swim when Nabil's swimmers were out practicing. And Paul talks about blasting past these guys, feeling quite happy with himself. And he got back on the beach and started drying himself out and watched them come out of the surf.
Yeah, he also brought a team of juniors over, under 16s, and I think they've still got the record for the juniors.
Fantastic, Dave. I want to bring up a sometime awkward subject. The sport of marathon swimming doesn't list too many black swimmers of African ancestry, and I guess we can look at it. We can say, well, there weren't a lot of pool swimmers back in the day, but I guess the first question for you is: do you remember, or did you experience any bias and discrimination in the 25 years you were doing this? I'm guessing that most of your bookings were coming in by phone or telex or post. Yeah.
No, I didn't experience any of it at all. In fact, a lot of it was maybe biased the other way when they got here. We've had several Indians, which some did well and some didn't, but they were all well treated, I'm pretty sure. And the only dark or black African, apart from the Egyptians, we had was a guy from Zambia. His name was Victor Malwa, Malwa, Victor Malwa, and he did it in 13 hours. And he was as black as you could ever be.
And when did you first meet the man?
That's quite difficult. I can't remember when I first met him, but I know he was in his swimming costume, and I thought he had a wetsuit on. That's when I first met him.
So you took the booking without ever meeting the man, and the first time you realized he was a black swimmer was when he came along the side of the boat.
No, I'd met him before he came alongside the boat, but I was probably on the beach or somewhere down there because he was in his swim gear when I met him.
Dave, you ended up with 11 successful solo swimmers from Ireland. Somehow you became the favorite of the swimmers here. And I've been to several CSA and CSPF annual dinners. It's rare to see the pilots called up for applause, but we had you come to the Channel dinner in Cork, and 7 of those 11 swimmers were there, and we made a bit of fuss over you, and you looked absolutely uncomfortable. Had you gotten over being applauded yet?
Oh.
Is that a yes? Have you forgiven me?
I think he fell off again. Okay, let me.
Okay. So, Dave, last question for you. You retired a number of years ago. Tell us what you've been doing with yourself and your observations of the sport from a home location pretty close to Dover.
Well, after I stopped tunnel swimming.
After you stopped piloting?
We carried on doing a bit of sailing, but we packed that up as well. And a lot of the time I spent teaching people to fly gliders and motor gliders with the RAF and the Army. So that took a few years, and I think it was about 5 years ago, I stopped doing that. So at the moment, we're doing very little. We packed up skiing, we packed up diving, and all we do now is mainly walk around and go on a few cruises.
Did you follow Sarah Thomas's four-way channel crossing? Did you ever think somebody would do that?
Oh, it was a fantastic achievement, I must admit, and I'm pretty sure it might be beaten in time, in speed, but I don't think anyone will do the 5. I mean, Alison Street did 3, and so it seemed when she finished that, she didn't look as though she looked as though she could probably go and do another one, but you can't tell.
Well, listen, Dave, we've run out of time for the interview. We want to thank you very, very much. It's been nice catching up with you after all these years. I will call you for that pint, and we are going to determine whether you were handing me a story about the 100% record, and we'll see who buys the second round on the basis of that. Take care. Take care, and all the best to Joan.
Okay, thanks very much. Bye-bye.